Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextdevnick.com and I'm joined again today by Vicky.
Guys.
Hello, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some more game news for this week. We're going to talk about everything that's happened and we're going to give our take on some stuff. I don't know if we are going to talk about everything that's happened, to be honest, because there are a few bits that I know both of us want to talk about, but we'll see what happens, we'll see what we get to. There's been some really juicy stuff. And I've spoken to you already, Vicky, about a couple of bits, but I've already said that I'm keeping some to surprise you, haven't I?
I'm a little bit worried now. Although I apologise if my voice sounds like garbage, just because I have the awful cold that's been going round. So I'm just dying a little bit.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's nothing too serious because, like, with like the coronavirus and everything, if you're like, I'm a little bit ill, everyone's like, what? Like immediately at the moment, if anyone's ill, it's like, what?
If it's the coronavirus, like my entire office has it.
Well, what we'll do is I'm going to launch straight into one of the stories that I really want to talk about, which is a big one at the moment. It's really trending. I wrote something about it earlier. Blizzard has, of course, released Warcraft 3 Reforged, a remake of Warcraft 3. Now, do you know much about this already?
I don't. Actually. I'm one of those lame people who kind of stare at World of Warcraft from afar, but I'm way too intimidated to ever actually get into it. But it looks really cool.
Okay, well, Warcraft 3 was an old RTS game, so it's very similar to stuff like Command and Conquer and things like that. It's kind of, Warcraft was kind of where everything started, the basis for World of Warcraft and that kind of thing.
Right.
Fans have been eager for a long time to see a remaster, so Blizzard announced this. The only thing is that a lot of the clips they used for trailers are actually not in the game. So a lot of stuff has happened. So, for example, the cutscenes that you can see at a couple of showcases showcase these really elaborate cutscenes that have all been sort of dressed up and made to look really nice. They've been really dialed back on. There's loads of issues in regard to the fact that there was a new UI promised. That's been dialed back on. There's been all these other issues as well. Apparently, they're refusing to give refunds in Australia. I don't know how true that is at the moment. That's just something trending on the subreddit. And on top of that, now this is the story I reported on specifically because I thought this was the most interesting part. Dota, the MOBA game. There's a lot of acronyms. Dota the MOBA, but Dota was originally a mod for Warcraft 3, and then it took off, and Steam ended up getting involved. Valve got involved, hired the creator, who then made Dota 2, which became sort of one of the biggest MOBAs of all time.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't this like this is crazy popular? Like, is it China or Korea? It's massively popular in one of them.
Yeah, it has died a little bit recently, to be fair, but then saying that, it has had a ridiculous amount of time being successful. But the thing that Blizzard has said is inside their current contract for people making like custom game modes and custom maps, there's a little subsection in the terms and conditions that says that you have to sign away your moral rights in order to do so. So I'm going to read the bit out that I think is the most egregious, and I want to hear what you think of this. So are you prepared?
I am. I'm rather worried, and like I think my first initial reaction is so. Right, this is relevant, I promise. But did you see that Square Enix announced earlier this week that they're doing another Kingdom Hearts mobile game about? I think it's Xehanort's backstory. I'm too jaded to pay properly attention, and I went on to Kingdom Hearts Insider, who are these are like the hardcore fans, and I used to lurk around there a lot, kind of 5-10 years ago when stuff was probably coming out, and like one of the first comments was just, I am so tired. And that's exactly how I feel about it.
That's amazing. I like the way that it's gone to the stage where there must be this committee going, yeah, this is what they want to see. And in reality, you've just got this one guy in a room going, I just want to play something new, please. Just a new IP. We're in the age of like the remaster. And don't get me wrong, I think Capcom's done some great stuff with their remasters. Like, you can do a remaster right. I thought the Spyro remasters were pretty good, to be honest. I mean, I know the Crash Bandicoot ones were a bit iffy. There was this whole thing with the hitbox.
When we started on that, I actually shopped in the game because I got so sick of just dying with the dodgy hitboxes.
I did I think it's like Road to Nowhere or High Road to Nowhere or something, the one where you have to jump across the boards in the first game.
Yeah.
I did that on the remaster, and I swear to God, I've not been that annoyed for such a long time. Like, I was covered in sweat. You know, like the stereotypical gamer that you see in like the media, where he's just there, covered in a mixture of crumbs and sweat and just angry. I was just there for a good hour and a half.
Like, this came out when I was like, God, I must have been under the age of 10. If 8-year-old me could do this the first time around, there is definitely something wrong now.
See, I worry as well that it's a snapshot of the fact that I'm now a bit older. Like if someone throws a ball at me and it just knocks me in the face and then my hands go up like 2 seconds later.
No, easy mode. I put everything on easy mode now, mostly because I'm just at the point where I'm like, I literally don't care about the combat. I want to come here and have a nice time. I don't want to die 8 times in a row. I just want to shoot the thing and then get onto the story and just, yeah, that's probably discredited everything I've ever said, and all like where everyone listening's just be like, well, she's a fake gamer now, but there you go, exposed. Everyone the story and can't shoot things.
I play everything on the hardest difficulty. Don't worry, everyone. No, I'm joking. I play everything on the hardest, and the only reason I do is because I cannot escape the feeling that there is a developer somewhere just laughing at me, and I'm like, no, I will beat you. I will beat the best thing you can bring to me. And then I play some games, and the fury. I use games as such a cathartic thing. It gets so much of my rage out. I can't scream at people in real life, so I just play a game and scream at that for a little bit, and then I feel better. It's a healing process.
My excuse is that I don't play a lot of shooters because my eyesight is so crap. Even with my glasses, I have a real problem telling things apart. So if it's like a greyish stone background and the bad guys are wearing grey, it's really, really hard for me to pick them out. So now I'm just like, because I remember having this problem when I was playing the Uncharted remaster. I was like, you know what? No, we're just putting on easy mode. And it's like, what was the thing that had aim assist? I think it was Tomb Raider. I was like, I don't care if I'm cheating. You know, I am halfway to Legally Blind.
Yeah.
I do not have my time for this.
I think this is a very good argument, actually, because a lot of people push back against the idea of having like accessibility options in games. I've seen people push back against this because they say, oh, it makes it too easy. Oh, you know, there's modes, for example, in a lot of Nintendo is really good for this. They put modes into their games where, you know, you can't die or, you know, you're not able to be killed. And people get annoyed. And I'm like, why are you getting annoyed? Like, you don't have to use it and it helps someone else to appreciate the game. I've never understood this argument of, like, elitism in gaming.
It's real dumb.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, like, I don't know whether you can really call it a disability. I don't know. But basically, I have an eye condition which makes my eyesight, like my glasses, very, very blurred. And it's gotten to the point now where, just to make things easier on me, because I have stupidly strong glasses, I have everything zoomed in. And when I'm playing something, I always up the subtitle size just because it makes it so much easier for me to see. And I can't remember what game it was. I think it might have been The Outer Worlds that did it the most recently. And I think it might have been Life is Strange to let you up the subtitle size. And it's just like, thank God. So because I remember just trying to play Skyrim, and I was like, I literally, even with my glasses on, sitting not very far back, like, I can't read the text.
Yeah, I remember when I've got pretty good eyesight. Like, I've never really had any problems, touch wood. I say that, and my eyes fall out. But I remember when the Xbox originally came out, the Xbox 360, one of the first launch games was Dead Rising.
Yeah.
And that was ludicrous. Like, if you didn't have, like, a decent TV, and I remember at the time, everyone was sort of switching over to plasma TVs and stuff. If you did not have a decent TV, you just couldn't read the subtitles. And that was the storytelling. So you legitimately could not play the game, couldn't read what it said. And I think the thing is that if you've got features that help everyone to enjoy a game, this is the thing, right? I don't get this because I've heard people say this before, like the whole get good thing with Dark Souls. I like Dark Souls. But I can't deal with that argument because it's like, right, the fact that you're being elitist might work every now and then. You might encourage people to push through that barrier and have a go at your game. But if you do that with every game, like if there's a pushback and a really, really hard difficulty curve for new players where they don't feel accepted and they feel upset when they play, they're bullied and they're persecuted and all this, they will not play. The game is there because it makes money. If you push it to the point where new players aren't joining on, you won't get more of what you like. The more people play, the more of what you like they will make. They would not make a burger that tastes like poo because no one would eat it. Whereas if they make something that's tasty and everyone eats it, they will make more of it. Like, I don't understand this pushback against new fans. You should embrace... Don't get me wrong, I can understand that if you've played something for a long time, you're suddenly with someone who's a bit of a noob. I get the fact that, oh yeah, maybe that's a bit of a problem. But, one, it doesn't take long for them to get to grips with the game, and two, I've even seen it on single player games. Like, what is the point of that pushback?
I'm trying to remember what game it was, and I have a feeling it might have been Demon Gaze 2, which is total shit, by the way. I made myself play that for 16 hours for a review, and I swear to God, I was literally ripping my hair out by the end. Pro tip, devs, don't ever put 5 hours of gameplay, 30 minutes of story, 5 hours of repetitive dungeon gameplay. And the stupid thing was, it was ridiculously difficult. It assumed that you were familiar with dungeon crawlers, had a load of features that it didn't show you how to use. And I think it was Game Facts I went on, and everyone was just like, yeah, lol, get good. And I was like, I already don't like this kind of game. I'm genuinely trying here. And then you wonder why your game is a niche title that got a sequel like 10 years later. This is why.
Yeah, and I don't understand that argument. Like, I don't understand the argument of, oh, we need to get good. It's like, well, yeah, I understand the fact that, okay, this is a game that requires skill, but you should give your player all of the abilities they need and encourage them to get good. Don't just scream at them that they're crap as soon as they start. Teach them how to play.
Two of the best fandoms for new players, thinking about it, because you can't even call the Kingdom Hearts fandom particularly welcoming, because you just get the people when they be like, oh yeah, I only played the first 2 games, and you get laughed at. This is a meme at this point. But I would say the best 2, the Sims fandom, depending on either 1, 2, 3, 4, whichever one you're playing, everyone is super, super nice. And Neopets has a very nice Reddit community, actually, that they're really good to new players, even though like the only people left are like the ones with 13-year-old accounts.
Which one was that? Was that Neopets, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have much of a fan base on the site anymore, mostly because they still try to pretend 13-year-olds play it, so they censor everything. But the Reddit community is actually super lovely, and they're very, very welcoming to new players.
I think we've tangented so far away, and you thought you could escape from this thing that's going to annoy you, but I'm going to tell you it.
Oh, goody.
So I wrote an article, basically going back to it, I wrote an article recently talking about the fact that the new Warcraft 3 Reforged makes you sign away your moral rights, and those are literally the words used, your moral rights, when you decide to start making content. So if you make a map, or if you make a game mode, or anything like that, it immediately belongs to Blizzard. But would you like me to read the disgusting language?
Okay, go on, rumour day.
Okay, so fair play. This was actually highlighted on Reddit by a user called Man-Eating Boar. So if you do listen to this, then thank you. Really appreciate it. It was a really interesting post, and you drew a lot of attention to this, and I think it's a really good thing. The terms of service suggests users will grant Blizzard a, now here comes the quote, exclusive, perpetual, worldwide, unconditional, royalty-free, irrevocable license enabling Blizzard to fully exploit your content.
It sounds like the kind of thing that you'd read in a satire article.
Do you know what makes this worse?
I don't want to, but okay.
Okay, after writing this article, of course a lot of people I think are in agreement. I mean, the game itself is apparently utter dirge. Like I say, there's been a lot of bad reviews. I think it's sitting currently on Metacritic at a 1.3.
Okay.
So I will check that. But also, what makes it worse is that after writing this article, a lot of people agreed wasn't a great game and that this was an unfair business practice. Sorry, I tell a lie. It's sitting at 1.2 based on 2,841 reviews. Well, that's the end of that. The thing that made it worse for me was that after I published that article, I had 2 private messages from people telling me to leave Blizzard alone and stop jumping on the hype train because now it's just popular to hate on Blizzard.
For God's sake, like, if you're a paid shill, at least do a better job of it.
Yeah, it was quite bad. I mean, I don't know. This is something I wanted to talk about. I know we touched on this last week. Why do people defend large budget AAA studio publishers and developers? Like, developers I get. If you're boots on the ground floor level developing, if you're creating this game, I know you have no say in regard to the creative process. You can do your best, but at the end of the day, if management tells you to do something, you have to do it. I get that. but no one is critiquing you.
Yeah.
No one is saying, okay, this is a developer's fault. When we say we're annoyed at the developers, we do not mean the people that, ironically, have made the game. 9 out of 10 times people mean the studio itself. In other words, the CEO of the studio, the CFO of the studio, and the people in charge of the studio that have made the negative decisions.
It's like when people were getting really upset when Telltale went under. And it's like no one's upset at the devs, especially because I think it was Kirkland, in my opinion, the head devs, I think it's the head writer, went on to Reddit and they did an AMA and they were like, we're really sorry guys, we were going to stick the landing on this one. You know, we all wanted this to succeed. Like nobody was upset with the devs themselves. They were upset with the higher ups.
Yeah, and this is the problem, is that I have seen this argument. The arguments I see so often are, don't have a go at the people that made the game. Right, we're not having a go at the people who actually made the game. We're having a go at the people who try to sell the game. The people who have decided to try and turn this into a marketable project. Those are the people that people are having a go at. It isn't the developing team that people are annoyed at. People are annoyed at the marketing team for misleading people. They're annoyed at the management team for lying about the product and taking it away from what it is. And they're annoyed as well about the community management team quite a lot of the time. Not all the time, because a lot of the time they will tend to hide negative comments and boost positive ones, which I understand is their job, but you have to see why people would be frustrated with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of how I feel about a lot of the Kingdom Hearts Remind stuff. It's like, I'm not going to slag off the devs that worked incredibly hard on all of this, but it's like, you can't blame people for being really annoyed that they've cut out story content, character interactions. Literally, I've been living vicariously through Tumblr for all the GIFs, and it's all the stuff that I actually really wanted. All of the character interactions, all the cute moments, has been put into the 25 quid DLC. And it's like, I'm sure you worked really hard on this, and I'm sure the voice actors did really, really well. And, you know, I'm not mad at them for getting extra money. But what I am mad at is that it should have been the game I paid 50 quid for.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is that people are not having a go at the people that actually are responsible for the creative project. They're annoyed at the people who are marketing and trying to sell the creative product. And I understand that. It's like if you went into a shop and you think something's overpriced, you're not going to have a go about the fact that the person who served you is in the wrong, because you know for a fact, yeah, they have no say in this process. The people that you're annoyed at is overall the people running the company. I mean, one of the arguments I saw this argument. The other argument I see all the time, and this one I think annoys me the most, is when someone negatively talks or insults a person making a criticism, tries to discount what they say, and then uses the argument, they're only trying to make projects and products for you to enjoy.
See, my argument is that nothing is immune to criticism. And even with stuff I enjoy, like, there is always stuff to criticise. And I don't know whether this is because it's like my inner writer and editor coming out. It's like I'm at the moment sitting and playing through Danganronpa 2, which is Goodbye Despair. Fucking love it. Top tier. Really, really love it. But literally for the first 5 hours I was like, so when is something going to actually happen? I was Googling, does Danganronpa 2 get better? Because I'd come straight off the first game, loved it, and I was like, please don't let this ruin it, because I'm going to be really upset. And yeah, it took some time for stuff to start happening. But when it started happening, it was great. But I was just like, it's had really piss poor pacing. But the rest of it's great. But does that mean that I'm like being like, oh yeah, the devs are really shit? It's like, no, they dropped the ball on the pacing a little bit. But and if anybody comments this, I don't want any spoilers. I'm about halfway through. Yeah, don't tell me anything, because I'm going into this completely blind. Nagito is best boy, and he's like ridiculously sinister and also endearing at the same time. But yeah, they did good.
The thing is that I agree with you. Like, I don't think anything is above criticism, and that includes me. Like, don't get me wrong, that includes me. I know that there are issues in regard to things I do, because I'm only human, and that will always be the case. But the fact that you know there is critique means that you do always strive to do better. If someone says, for example, you need to work on X, I will work on X. If someone says, oh, I don't like the way you wrote this, I might think they're wrong, or I might take it like, oh, that's a bit upsetting, but I will take what they say on board and utilise that to become better at what I do. And that's what I do. That's what marketing is. That's what writing is. You take the feedback from the people you want to be, the people that, utilise what you write and do and create, and you tailor that experience so they enjoy it. That's half the battle. And I'm sorry, but I never, ever, ever subscribe to the view that a business needs defending when it's got over £1 billion or $1 billion net worth. And I don't believe that they're just making games for us to enjoy. That's not the case whatsoever. That they're after financial gain because it's a business, and that's fine. But do not tell me that the reason they are creating something is purely for people to enjoy. Because if it was, they wouldn't be in business. For example, if I look at, say, Warcraft 3 Reforged, if you were in that because you knew the fans were going to enjoy it, you would have kept in all the stuff you showed in the trailers because you saw the reactions, you saw that people liked it, but you took it out anyway. And why was it taken out? Financial reasons. Oh, could the company not afford to make a loss? Of course they could. Of course they could spend more money on this project. World of Warcraft is one of the largest pieces of media ever, but they chose not to. And why did they not think about that? Why did they take it out? Because it was financially viable to sell it as it was, to make more money. They did not make this for you to just purely enjoy. They did not put that clause in the contract because someone said to me it was because the art creators and the art writers and everything, they were taken advantage of by this bad guy who created a mod. Sorry, you're defending a massive team of people who are all credited in the game's credits against one bloke who decided to have a bit of fun and create something cool. You cannot win that argument. You can't represent McDonald's and cry because a bloke outside has sold 2 burgers from the back of a van. You are not in that ballpark,
I think the only thing I can really say is, I am so very tired. It's kind of like an argument against fanfic creators, and obviously you shouldn't monetize, fanfiction because that's stealing and all that shit. But it's like people feel like, oh no, you can't, it's like those who sue fanfic creators, even if, this is assuming that they're not making any money off it, they're not selling merch and all that thing. But, they're just posting it to AO3, they're posting it to Tumblr, they're having a good time, and then people sue them for, copyright infringement. It's like, mate, they can't really do it. Your brand is not being harmed by this. Not really.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the complete opposite, actually, because it encourages people to jump onto a product if they know that the fan base is friendly and active. But I think it's a shame that we're at the stage where people are defending AAA developers, and by that I mean the company, over the individual, because that's half the battle, surely. When we're defending companies over individual people, how can we claim moral superiority in any way, shape or form?
It's really sad.
Yeah, but in other news, would you like a nice positive story?
I would.
According to the Nintendo 9-month earning release, which was released in January, Nintendo Switch has sold 52.48 million units since its launch.
That is impressive.
They've done really, really well. I mean, when you think in the lifetime of the Wii, it sold 101.63 million units. So the Switch has been out as long as it has, and it's sold just over half what the Wii sold. When you think about the success of the Wii, I mean,
it's incredible.
Yeah, and it does bring to light a little bit of a sad old story as well, which is, do you remember the Wii U?
I don't think anybody really remembers the Wii U. And then the only thing I remember about the Wii U is that for some bizarre reason, Nintendo decided to release Project 05 on the Wii U, but you only got a physical copy if you pre-ordered the special edition of it. And I was working at Game at the time, and one of my co-workers, who is a much smarter man than me, pre-ordered it to get it, and I have all of the other games because I spent far too much money on second-hand shops on them. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get that. I don't even have a Wii U. It's 150 quid now. So, Jack, if you're listening, you were much smarter than me, because now I can't get hold of the damn thing. That's why I'm Wii U.
I really like the Project Zero in America Fatal Frame series, actually.
It's so good. Apart from the remake they did for 2 for the Wii, because they redubbed Sai's voice actress, and it's nowhere near as scary. But I'm still glad we never got 4 over here, because it's like the only one apart from 5 I don't have.
See, I'm a bit of a coward, so when it comes to horror games, I'm not good anyway. But I remember playing those games when I was younger, and they were terrifying.
They're still terrifying.
Yeah, I don't think they aged badly at all. I think the art style is great.
I was in the living room watching, I think it's some of like Watch Mojo's listicle things, or no, I think it was What Cultures once. And they were like, oh yeah, top 10 scariest video games. And I'm so pleased that they put Fatal Frame 2 on there, because it gets neglected, it gets forgotten about. And when you watch it, it's like, this could be a PS3 game. This doesn't look jank at all.
Yeah, I think they did a really nice thing with the art style with the Fatal Frame games. Like, I feel like they've got this really nice feel to them that generally encourages this atmosphere and this tension. I think they're a real masterclass on like horror storytelling as well. Like, they do some really cool stuff, but I think they're so underrated compared to what they could be. There was a rumor that a Fatal Frame game potentially was coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Okay, did they say? Was it like a new one, or was it a remake, or?
I heard there was talk of making a new one, but this was a while ago and I've not heard anything since, so I don't know if it was just purely a rumour.
Shame.
Which does, however, bring us on to our next story.
Alright.
Which is that there are potentially going to be 2 more Silent Hill games.
Oh yeah, but is this by Konami? Because I don't really want them to make any more after... I'm still upset about Silent Hills.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about the story and thought, oh, interesting. Saw the word Konami and thought, oh, never mind. Immediately discounted it as just, they're probably going to be pachinko machines, to be honest.
I mean, when you say 2 new Silent Hill games, you're like, oh yeah, 2 new pachinko machines.
Yeah, this is it. This is immediately what I thought. But apparently, Aesthetic Gamer, I saw this as well. Aesthetic Gamer has been right in the past about other predictions. He's mentioned a few bits about Capcom in the past, which have proven to be correct. Not too long ago, he was part of the... I believe it was him who helped to leak information about Resident Evil 3 that proved to be correct. And he is also someone who leaked some information about Dino Crisis being remastered soon. Or a title... I think his words were a title that was very similar to Resident Evil, but not Resident Evil by Capcom, and that only really leaves Dino Crisis, let's be honest.
Okay.
But he also said apparently they're thinking about 2 Silent Hill games. One is a soft reboot of the franchise, and the other is potentially an episodic Telltale Until Dawn style game, is what he said.
First up, why does the series get a soft reboot? Because as far as I'm concerned, everything past 4 isn't really canon anyway. And second of all, Until Dawn was a fucking masterpiece, right? And again, I say this every time I see it pop up in the video somewhere. I'm just like, this game really flew under the radar for so many people. I massively enjoyed it. Rami Malek knocked it out of the park. They actually had, like, accurate Native American folklore horror. You know, the Wendigos are terrifying. Why did we never get a sequel or like something? You know, I literally had a dream once, right, where it was the same characters of Until Dawn, but it was a horror story happening on a tropical island. And I was like, what's the moneymaker? Like, why don't they do something like this? They just made one game and that was it. And it was just so underrated by literally everyone.
It kind of flew under the radar, Until Dawn. I remember it coming out, and then within no time, it was like a free game with PlayStation, I think.
Oh, such a crime. It's so good. Anybody who hasn't played it, honest to God, go and try it out. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's like a multiple choice horror game, isn't it? It's a bit like the most recent one that's similar is Man of Medan.
I actually think it's the same developers.
Yeah, I've heard this. I know Man of Medan is meant to be one of 3 titles that they've got planned. They've got Man of Medan and then 2 others in their series that they're planning on doing, but I don't know much about them other than that.
Basically, it's what... So when they say, like, it's your choose your own path thing, and you know how Telltale likes to claim that, oh yeah, all your choices matter, and they don't?
Yeah.
Actually does, even really small choices. Because I remember there was a point where I think I got one of the characters killed because I'd used my second bullet in my gun to shoot at something else earlier and missed. And it all exists, and it's so good. Seriously, just everyone's going to buy it. It's like 10 quid by now. It has a great theme, like remix of Odeth as the theme. Rami Malek is great. Hanan Panettiere is great. Everyone's great. I love it.
See, I've heard good things. I'd say definitely give it a go. Would you like some Silent Hill positive news, though?
Metal Gear Survive has been nuked from the universe and we never have to speak of it again.
Oh, you can dream. That thing's there to stay. But... but one of the people who recently tweeted about working on a new project, and I'm pretty sure he did mean Silent Hills, was Masahiro Ito, the video game artist behind the early Silent Hill games.
Ooh.
So he's back in.
Silent Hills, as in Silent Hills S, or like a new Silent Hill game?
I meant 2 Silent Hills. So 2 Silent Hill games, but plural of... This is so difficult now. Call your game something else. Call it something else. Stop calling things plurals. I get confused. So he worked on the original Silent Hill games, and now he's back to work potentially. He said he was working on a new project. He actually did a little bit of a snipe, and I'm pretty sure it was aimed at Konami, because one of the things he said in a translated tweet, if you look it up, he says something along the lines of, let's hope these don't get cancelled, which I thought was a brilliant little stab after Silent Hills. But I think he's probably back to be working on this Silent Hill game with Konami.
Okay, full disclosure, I'm a massive wuss, so I can't actually play horror games, but I'm really into the lore behind Silent Hill. And it's like, you had something really cool going here and something really genuinely scary.
I think they started to go off the deep end a bit when they misrepresented what the whole idea of Silent Hill was. Like, the whole point of Silent Hill was that you go in if you have regret or something that you're trying to deal with, and then the area itself is kind of like teaching you a lesson. Like, it helps you to overcome that and kind of forgive yourself, but at the same time face your own guilt. And or it's a little dog controlling everything.
The point is, you only end up in Silent Hill if you believe that you are meant to be punished, which is why the whole argument is why Angela in the second game was in Silent Hill 2 despite being a victim. I mean, yeah, she killed a couple of people, but they deserved it. But it's like, it's like she believed it was all her fault. So that's why Silent Hill took her in. It's almost like purgatory, because then if you confront your fears, then it lets you go.
Yeah, I think it's a very clever metaphor as well about the human condition, in that nothing is quite as scary as your own guilt and remorse and horror. Like, the whole thing is, it's a personification of the things you're internally feeling, and nothing is as horrible as our own negative thoughts and feelings. And I think that's great. I think it's brilliant. And I like the way as well that it's like with the nurses, where James Sunderland had that attraction in regard to nurses, and that's why they appear, because it's his own subconscious guilt about the fact that he had a sexual interest in the nurses when his wife was ill. But that's why it made no sense when they just kept popping up. And like Pyramid Head, why was he about all the time?
Well, this is it, and this is why the movies annoyed me so much. So I mean, they were great fun, but like,
yeah,
Pyramid Head is a specific manifestation of James's guilt. So why is he popping up? Why is he the mascot now? Why is he in every single game? And it's annoying. People don't understand the lore. Like, for God's sake, just hire me. Like, I've read all your wikis. I'm elbows deep in this kind of lore. Like, I'll make it accurate.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when we were talking about this before, but when someone creates a game, you should listen to what fans want, but at the same time, you should always give them something new as well. It's like when they made Portal 2. Originally, Portal 2 had basically no GLaDOS in it whatsoever, and it was all about Cave Johnson. Like, Cave Johnson was in it. But then people were saying, oh, we want GLaDOS. So they got rid of a lot of that and put GLaDOS in. Lo and behold, fans meet Cave Johnson. Oh, we wish we had more Cave Johnson. Well, yeah. Like, that's the thing, is you need to be able to listen to feedback and then still promise the fans that you've got their best interests at heart and you'll be doing the right thing. It's like with Silent Hill, they did that as well, where they just basically said, oh, you like Pyramid Head? Here he is again.
I've got a decent comparison for this, even though it's kind of the other way round, because no one asked for it. The Walking Dead Season 8. Who the hell wanted Harvey as a playable character? Who the hell wanted Gabe as Clementine's romance option, and I'll tell you now, the answer is no one, because when I was on there, this was a few months ago now, I don't know if it's still true, but if you go on TWDG, which is the Walking Dead game subreddit, the most upvoted post is in season 4 when you're talking to the kids I think at the school at the start in the first episode. They can ask Clem if she's ever had a boyfriend, and one of the responses is like, no, never. It's the highest picked option in the stats, and everyone was just losing their shit. No one wanted this.
Reminds me a lot of... Did you ever watch a TV series called Life on Mars?
No, I'm vaguely aware of it though.
Yeah, it was basically about... Now, there are going to be spoilers in regards to this, guys. I will put a timestamp up if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen Life on Mars, and if you haven't seen Ashes to Ashes, pretend... Well, Ashes to Ashes is okay, but you'll see my point in a minute. But Life on Mars, watch it. It's really good. Anyway, the whole premise is that he's a cop. He basically gets hit and goes into a coma. And then it transports him back to like the 60s. So he's back in the whole idea of like, you know, rough cops in the UK and this whole thing of they can interrogate people by hitting them. And it's a really cool show with like elements of comedy, elements of satire, really good action, really good storylines, right? But the whole way through, the premise was he in a coma or had he time travelled?
Oh, okay.
There was a little bit of an idea of like, oh, is he time travelling, or is he? How's this working? Is he in his own head, or is this real? And then this is the main spoiler, guys. If at the end of the show he comes out of his coma and he realises that the real world that he's in isn't as good as the world that he's created, so he jumps off of a building to basically go back into a coma, and then as he like basically hits the floor, he's back with Gene Hunt, who's like the detective in the past, and you never know whether or not he's actually died, and this is like a kind of purgatory heaven-esque thing, or if he really could travel. You know, you never knew. It was always left up to interpretation. Then they made Ashes to Ashes, and then it's Gene Hunt and everyone again, but now it's someone else who's gone back. And you're like, oh, yeah, so it just completely eliminates the whole intrigue, because you go, oh, right, then it must be something otherworldly, because it's the exact same world. Or, you know, it kind of eliminates it ended on such a good note. And don't get me wrong, Ashes to Ashes was a good show. There was some good acting in it. There were some really good actors. I thought there was a female lead, and she was really good as well. But I think the problem is that they went too far. It's the same thing again, whereas rather than creating an independent property, you just springboard off of something from the past, and it has no relevance and detracts from the original. And that's the thing I'd be worried about with Silent Hill, is that this new product, especially if Konami's in control, it could just detract from the series as a whole. I don't know.
I mean, I kind of just consider the series dead at this point.
For all intensive purposes, I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, after you hype everyone up so much, you know, you've got Norman Reedus in the main role. You've got Hideo Kojima directing. You've got Guillermo del Toro, also, I think was he also directing, I think? And then you have Junji Ito doing the art design, and you cancel that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what they were thinking, because there was so much... Well, I do know what they were thinking. They couldn't get on with Hideo Kojima, but I think the problem is that they're just, as a company, Konami is so self-destructive. And apparently, from what I've heard, Jim Sterling did a video on this in the past about, I think it was called The Silent Hell That Is Konami. Apparently, speaking from the inside, from multiple people, he said they have no respect for their old legacies. They have no interest in perpetuating their old games, and they don't really care about their own canon. And they don't care about their mental health or well-being of their staff either. So it sounds like a real horror show, and I've been in close contact with a couple of game developers. I've actually been to a couple of offices for different companies, not Konami, but other offices for, I'm not going to say who, but other game developers in the recent past, and they are the same. They have no interest. I actually posed a question to a game developing company not too long ago. I sat down with the FCO, so the CFO, sorry, so the Chief Financial Officer. And I'm not going to say which company it was, but I spoke to them and said, how do you feel about the fact that you're currently receiving negative reviews on Steam? and they came back and said, we don't care because the fans we do have are rabid, and that means they argue and shout down the ones with negative opinions.
It's not a good thing.
No, and that is the same situation, I believe, with a lot of AAA developers, is that they do have that attitude that basically they can not have to care about the past or anything else because people will shut them down. I mean, I saw a critique of someone who was saying about the Warcraft thing recently, and for no reason, the guy just started calling the person who had a complaint a neckbeard. An angry, aggressive, neck-bearded man baby or something like that. And it was like, why? Because he's not enjoying a product that he paid for, which he has a right to critique. He has bought it. But I think Konami is one of those companies where they do not care about their own legacy. They do not care about what people think. So it's a shame.
It is a shame.
I mean, I'd like to see quite a lot of different things explored with a new Silent Hill game. I mean, I like the fact that Masahiro Ito is involved. I think his work is fantastic. It was Silent Hill 2 that he did a lot of the work on. But, yeah, I think he's got a wonderful art style. I think, to be honest, I think it's a shame that Junji Ito isn't involved as well, because he generally creeps me out. For anyone listening to this who hasn't seen Junji Ito's work, you know, I would say Google it from a distance, because it is the stuff of nightmares.
I mean, if you want to go in like the deep end, Google, what is it, the Enigma of Amigara Fault or something like that. Just get straight in there.
Yeah, it is something else. I think he's got his own anime series now. There's an anime series based on his work.
Yeah, there is.
And it is something else from what I've heard about it. It is very. He's the kind of guy who can really reach in and pluck out your nightmares. So I would say if you do like your horror, definitely check out Junji Ito's stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I promised this would happen, and I know you were eager to do this. You, I believe, have some strong feelings. There was an article not too long ago that Vicky wrote for me. I think it's brilliant. So if you haven't checked it out already, definitely have a look at it. It's a very recent article on the site. It's all about the facts, all the things, the wrongs with the most recent Kingdom Hearts game. So if you haven't read it, head into the latest posts on www.nextstepnick.com and look for tales of love, loss, and crushing disappointments. It's a really, really good article. It made me laugh a couple of times, and I didn't do that at your expense because I know it genuinely broke your heart. But I know you wanted to say a bit more about some stuff that's happened since about Kingdom Hearts.
It's kind of where to start, really. It's like, I was already really disappointed by the existence of Remind.
Yeah, so just for anyone who's listening to this who doesn't know, Remind is the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3 that you think, to be honest, should be in the game already.
Yeah, because, don't get me wrong, I am fully for DLC. I just think DLC should be extra stuff. I don't think DLC should be bits chopped out of a game that are very deliberately chopped out, and it's obvious and it shows. And it's when it's stuff like Kairi being a Keyblade wielder, Final Fantasy characters, I'm pretty sure there's expanded Radiant Garden, and extra character dialogue. It's just, for God's sake, what are you doing? And I've literally want to put an article up about the way Kairi's been treated as a whole in this series, because this was supposed to be her game, and instead we just got her kind of standing around in pink and then got fridged for Sora's sake. And it's such a damn shame. And quite honestly, I agree with that. I am just so tired.
I feel like that's such a great comment for the current state of the game industry. I think there's some really good indies, but I'm very tired when it comes to the AAA. I'm excited for Doom. I'm excited for Cyberpunk. I'm excited for a couple of little bits, but for the most part now, I see a story, I just think, oh God! I know straight away that it's going to be the Blizzard thing came out about the negative practices, and I took one look at it and went, oh God! It wasn't surprise. Yeah. It wasn't anger. It was just I'm just tired.
Yeah, and now if anybody hasn't heard, they're releasing another mobile game. And I will remind you that Kingdom Hearts, is it Union Cross now? I don't fucking know. I dropped off a long time ago. the English storyline, I don't even think the Japanese storyline has finished. It's updated like twice a year with story quests or something stupid. And now we're bringing out another mobile game. I don't know if it's about Ericus as well, but I think it's about Xehanort, and I think it this time is like a young apprentice Keyblade wielder or something. But the point is, so much for this being the end of the Darkseeker saga, Nomura. And it's really bad, because now I just feel like I'm just going to not bother picking up the fourth game.
Do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me a lot of, I've never been into it, to be fair, Shenmue.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of Shenmue, because Shenmue was one of those games where they said, right, just 2 games, we promise. Okay, okay, now we're going to make a third. Okay, look, just 4. And every time they get the funding to make one, they just make another one. And does it end the story? Does it hell end the story? It just carries on, because that's how you make your money. I heard that they've actually got plans for another, like, 5 Shenmue games.
Oh.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know who's profiting from this anymore, but it's just, it seems like the same thing from the outside with Kingdom Hearts, that, yeah, we're definitely done now, or are we?
Oh, no. I just remember what I was really upset about, and like everybody who knows me has had to put up with me shrieking like a fucking banshee, because again, I'm getting this all through Tumblr, because I'm not paying any more money than the 50 quid I already spent. But, okay, spoilers for Remind. Anybody who is actually interested in playing this and cares about the endings and the secret endings, mute the podcast for the next 2 minutes or whatever, because
I'll put a little skipper up.
Yeah, just because you have to see this to believe it, and you can find this on YouTube. But essentially, if people remember in Kingdom Hearts 3 when you got to the Toy Story world and there was that little demo video of, you know, definitely not Noctis, definitely not Stella, and whoever the redhead was supposed to be, right? In the secret ending, Nomura has recreated, shot for shot, the Versus 2011 trailer.
I heard this!
And it's just so blatant. And it's the whole thing where there's someone driving the car and they're implying it's Luke's sword and this whole kind of thing. And everyone on even on the subreddit, who ridiculously defend this game. And they're just like, so how salty is this guy? Because literally he just will not let it go. And I'm just like, I don't want Versus 13 with budget Noctis and also Sora is there. I don't want these.
What is the story behind this? Because I know there's a thing about there are connections with the creator of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, but I'm not sure of these, so you might have to enlighten me on this.
Okay, so Tetsuya Nomura is the head writer and I think director for the entire Kingdom Hearts series. Then originally, he had a project that he was going to do. It was going to be the next Final Fantasy, and it was called Final Fantasy Versus 13. And that was supposed to be from what I vaguely remember, it was supposed to be like a Yakuza Romeo and Juliet story, and Noctis and Stella were from rival houses / gangs or something, and it was like a love story and whatever. We didn't really know because we rarely got a trailer. And basically, this was in a compilation with 2 other games. Well, I mean, so basically the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, we'll group those as one games for now. Final Fantasy Type 0 and then Versus 13 were in what was called the Fabula Nova Crystallis. Extended.
Who names these things? Like, it frustrates me so much, but sorry, go on, yeah.
And basically they were all meant to share the same universe and the same mythos, which is why you've got in Type 0, which is criminally underrated, by the way. That game goes hard and it's great. Basically, they mentioned Lassie, they mentioned Falsey, and then which obviously ties into Final Fantasy 13. And then presumably it was all going to tie into Versus because they were going on about how Noctis and Stella had the eyes of Etro and they could see the souls of the dead and blah blah blah, all this. And then Versus 13 was turned into Final Fantasy 15. But at some point along the line, Nomura got kicked from the project and was replaced with Hajime Tabata, who is the one who did Crisis Core and the one who pushed for... I'm not sure what role he had in the Type 0 remaster, but he definitely had a role in it. And so this was Nomura's baby, Versus 13/50. And nobody really knows what went wrong or what happened, but he got booted from the project. And now he is apparently rezzing them for whatever Kingdom Hearts are getting next, and I am just not up for it because it just looks anime as hell, and I'm just like, you know what, guys, you've reached my believability limit.
I think that's the thing, is that there is this certain degree of this is kind of what we were saying before. You cannot just force. You need to use your games as a springboard for the next title. Don't wallow in something because you had success with it once, or you had an idea with it once. Like, use it as a springboard. Take on board what people liked and disliked about the last couple of games. Learn from that and make something new and cool.
Don't cling to a dead idea. Kill your darlings.
Yeah, that's the thing. The best ideas are the ones that get burnt and rebuilt and burnt and rebuilt.
Yeah.
Because they come back stronger.
And that is why my novel is on its 10th outline.
Yeah, and that's why Final Fantasy has Phoenix Downs, people. That's why they're there.
Please versus die. Please. Please let's forget 15 ever happened. Zero, I swear to God. It's so underrated and it's great. Yeah, PS4 remaster, you can get it dirt cheap now. Yes, the graphics are a bit janky. Yes, the voice acting ain't great. Yes, there were problems with the camera. But you know what? It's a dark story. And, you know, I mean, it starts with a chocobo and a soldier getting shot to death. It's like, oh, okay. You went real hard in the first 5 minutes.
Bro, that's a bit dark for the start, isn't it?
Oh, God, I'm not spoiling the ending. But, yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, okay. I might have to check that out myself, actually, because that sounds pretty cool. I might have a go.
Put it in perspective, to summon Eidolons in Type 0, you have to sacrifice, I think, you have to sacrifice 1 or 2 people, permanently kill them dead to be able to do it. And there's one point in the game where they have to summon Alexander, and it kills like a military leader and like an entire platoon of people. It's hard.
See, I think that if a game is not afraid to do that, though, it can make a good story. Like, it's yeah, I mean, one of the ones I'll go to all the time is Final Fantasy VII, of course. I won't say who, because believe it or not, people still get upset about spoilers for this, but someone at some point in that game dies, and it's very sad, and it's used to increase the importance and impact of the storytelling. And I think it works if you do it right.
I mean, look at Crisis Core. I knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. I cried like a little bitch, and I'm not playing that game again because it upsets me far too much.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about as well.
Just, no, I'm not handling this in 4K. Like, you know what, fuck it. No, I'm just going to be like, la 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 la, didn't happen. Because it will genuinely upset me.
I felt that way about, I played Bioshock Infinite, and I won't go into spoilers here, but something very, very sad happens, and I generally had to pause. I've been watching Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, which I probably butchered saying that, but it's a anime at the moment, and it's genuinely made me tear up, and I was trying to explain why, and I started tearing up when I was explaining. And it's the same. I love stuff that does that. I love bittersweet things. I love Undertale, but I could never do a genocide run because I love every single character in that game far too much. Whenever I get towards the end of that game, I start tearing up, and I genuinely struggle. I'm now, as I'm saying this, I'm tearing up, just thinking, oh no, I can't go back there. I love it, but it's such a wonderful experience. It's so cathartic. Like it brings up emotions from me. And I love it.
Do you know the game I refused to play ever again and actually deleted off my hard drive after I finished it because it upset me so much?
What was it?
Valiant Hearts.
I've never played Valiant Hearts.
It's so much better than I thought it was going to be. I can't remember why I played it. I think I picked it up off the PS Plus stuff 1 month. And I got through it. And I'm not spoiling the ending, but it was so brutally unfair. I was just sobbing the entire time. I can't even watch the trailer because it upsets me. And especially when you realise it's the dog narrating the trailer. And oh my God, it's like, you know what? I finished the game, deleted it off my hard drive. It's banned in my house, so no one is allowed to play this game in my house because it upsets me too much.
See, I think that's good though. I think it's nice. That's the thing, is these kind of games, they stick with you forever. And they do. Yeah. They, like now, I think that's brilliant. That encourages me to want to play because I want to have that experience, and I think that's like a human thing. Yeah, and yet there's other stuff that just... This is why you want to take risks with things, because you do end up getting these emotions. But it comes down to what we said last week as well, which is if you're passionate about a project, people will enjoy it. If you're just pissing it out because it makes you financial gain, then I'm sorry, the likelihood is it won't be well received. But anyway, I think we should probably call it there because we're just under the hour mark, but we'll probably hit an hour with the edits. I'm going to be playing this week, you've probably seen already, a little bit of FTL. So, Faster Than Light. It's a good game. I don't know if you played it.
I haven't, no, but that's because I'm in my little Danganronpa hole at the moment.
It's just appeared on Game Pass, but I've been playing it for a long time on Steam anyway. It's one of my go-to chill games. I say chill, it can be so frustrating, but it's a really good game. So I'm going to be playing that in the background. So you've probably watched me die quite a few times by this point. I tell you now, if you have been watching this video for the gameplay in the background, whenever the ship catches fire, I generally get palpitations. So every time you've seen the ship catch fire, just know that I have been physically uncomfortable.
So I've just spent $90 on a whole bunch of Neopets plushies that come in blind bags. So when they show up, we can have a fun unboxing video where I cry like my 11-year-old self again.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we are going to open these. Well, Vicky is going to very lovingly open these and then explain to me what the hell I'm looking at. So, if you do want to check out that video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe on the channel to stay up to date with all the latest news. Other than that, thank you very much for joining me, Vicky. I'll see you again next week.
Yep, it will do.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much, guys, and I'll catch you again real soon.